big idea number 3. It's a big one. It's in the title, subtleties.
Subtleties is where you actually gain an edge. There's many subtleties that can be used to manipulate or influence others. After this podcast, you will have an edge in influencing people who are not aware that you are doing this. The guru of the subtleties is a psychologist named Robert Cialdini. It's spelled with a Cialdini. I recommend you get his book, Influence. You can find him on YouTube, and he's definitely, in my mind, is the expert. And we now know how we respond to experts, right, from the last podcast.
Yes.
Well, he talks about what psychologists call mental heuristics. You know, there's shortcuts that we use in our thinking all the time. And like, for example, if I think somebody's an expert, I don't have to think for myself, right? I just accept what they say. And so there's a lot of mental heuristics that relate to persuasion. And one of them that is a myth that expensive equals good. For example, if I was on a trip and I was going to bring back my wife a pretty gold necklace, and I'm looking, and there's a gold necklace down there for $20, and there's one there for $100. Which is the best one? Well, you're going to say, well, it's the $100 one. Really? Well, there's a study they talk about in Cialdini's book where they were able to move merchandise by taking the $10 one and marking it up.
Huh.
People then thought it was better quality because we make this, in our mind we decide that if something's expensive, it must be better. My lawyer will be your lawyer because my lawyer charges more money an hour. And so we make that all the time. And that's an example of a mental heuristic. You know, we use it so we don't have to think. I don't have to go research necklaces or research gold or something like that. I just assume that the people are being honest and charging more when a product is worth more. Well, one of Cialdini's, what he calls click words, which are basically the art of persuasion, automatic response tendencies. One of the first ones he talks about is called reciprocity. And that is, for example, if I do a favor for you, you feel a need to do a favor back for me. And I might need a favor from you, so I might set you up. It's called the uninvited debt. So, for example, suppose I'm planning on moving next weekend and I need somebody to help me carry a piano. So I say, hey, why don't I take you to lunch today? And after I bought you lunch, I then say, hey, listen, would you mind helping me move next weekend? And you're like, doggone it. I had a friend who used to, every time he went on vacation, would bring me back a present. So how do I respond?
Bring him back.
I had to bring him back a present. That's right, Colby. I had to bring him back a present each time. So every time I'm on vacation, I'm looking to bring this guy back something. Because I felt I owed it to him. Same thing happens at Christmas. Ever had somebody show up at your house at Christmas with a present for you and you don't have one for them? So, my family, we always kept a present under the tree without some tag on it so we could say, oh, this is yours. The tag must have fallen off. Because you feel if somebody gives you a Christmas present, you have to give them one.
Yeah.
I can remember in the old days when people sent Christmas cards, like, oh, no, we forgot to send the Jubenvilles a card. They just sent us one. And so we had to do that. And so reciprocity is a very powerful thing. And basically society works well when people share resources and do favors for people who do favors for them. And, of course, the reciprocity can have a negative side. I'm going to get even with you. So nevertheless, reciprocity is an important click word, mental heuristic, automatic response tendency you need to keep in mind. You can set somebody up, or you can somehow just decide, I'm just not going to get them something just because they got me something, and then maybe they won't do that the next time. The second one that Cialdini talks about that's a very powerful one, and we mentioned it already, is commitment and consistency. If I can get you to commit to something, you're going to need to have your behaviors be consistent with that commitment. Car dealers will do that on you. If I could put you in this car today for this price, will you buy it? And if you find yourself saying yes, you're going to be more likely to buy the car that day. Would you like to have a TV that really works very well and projects things well for you? Yes. Well, you just became more likely to buy it. And humans have a drive for consistency. They want consistency within their attitudes, the affective, behavioral, cognitive, and they want consistency between their attitudes. And so there is this drive for consistency. Where we run into problems in persuasion is somebody will say, well, you told me a couple of years ago that you would do this. Well, 730 some days have gone by and I don't really feel that anymore. So commitments have a tendency to grow their own legs, is the expression. Just because I agreed to do something a while back, or just because I did it a while back, doesn't mean that I have to spend the rest of my life being consistent for that. Now, you remember that so that you won't be affected that way. But remember, if you can get other people to make a commitment and be consistent, they're more likely to keep with that influence attempt that you used on them. The third one is social proof. We love to compare ourselves to others. And there's not a whole lot of objective things we can compare ourselves on, like who's the tallest, who's the heaviest. Now, who's the prettiest, that becomes subjective. But social proof is where we compare our attitudes to the attitudes that other people that we are around have. Now, in this need to compare ourselves with others, the social psychologists have recognized that there's two different major types of groups. Membership group, which is a group you belong to, say your gender, or your age, and reference groups. A reference group is a group you use as a standard for comparing your attitudes. Now, if you're in a membership group and you have internalized, remember that word, the attitudes of that membership group, then that becomes a reference group for you because you're going to use it as a standard for evaluating your behavior. But you could have a reference group that you're not a member of. I see this in politics sometimes where people who want to be rich vote for people who are rich, thinking maybe I will become rich. When people look at movie stars and the movie star lifestyle, and the big athlete lifestyle, those are their reference groups, but they're not a member of it. They aspire to perhaps to be a member. But people oftentimes, and with this social proof, getting back to our principle, the value expressive function of an attitude, people sometimes can be influenced because of what they think an athlete is selling, what an athlete says to do, or what a movie star says to do. Look at the power of Twitter accounts now, say with the Kardashians. People want to be like the Kardashians, so they buy their products, making the Kardashians even richer. So social proof is a big thing. We like to fit in, most people, maybe don't all the time, but that pressure will be there to fit in. That's social proof. The fourth automatic response tendency that Cialdini introduces us to is a well-known one, and that's friendship. We do things for our friends, right? I might lend you my car if you're my friend, but if you're some stranger I met in the mall, I'm not going to let you have my car. If you're a friend and you need me to help you move, I'm going to help you move. But you know what? You owe me. Remember reciprocity. So I'm setting you up with an uninvited debt by helping you move, and someday I will call it due. But friendship is important. We all need friends, but we do things for our friends. We reciprocate things with our friends, but we do things with our friends. And sometimes because someone's a friend, it clouds our judgment. I personally, myself, will not do business with a friend because I would allow that to cloud my judgment. So in your life, as you go forward, somebody you graduated college with is selling insurance, don't buy it from them. Somebody's trying to sell you a car, don't buy it from them, because you will find your judgment is clouded by the friendship. Somebody becomes an investment specialist and they're a friend. Be careful, because your judgment will be clouded by doing something for friends. On the other side of it, feel free to approach your friends if you're selling investments, cars, insurance, or whatever, because it might actually help you because they're not aware of this like you are. The fourth automatic response tendency is authority. Authority. What you do is you just say 5 experts agree that, and people respond to authority mindlessly. The professor wants this, the president wants this, the coach wants this, and so people will respond to authority. It's sort of like compliance back earlier, but one of the aspects of authority that you have to always keep in mind is trust. Do you trust the person? Does the person trust you? You want to always be consistent in doing things for people so that they trust you, because if you ever betray them, they will never really trust you again. And the same thing with other people. If they have betrayed you once, you keep your eye on them, because they might feel the need to be consistent but more subtle with the betrayals. The rule of the few, the heuristic, is an extremely powerful one. Scarce resources are valuable, but I can make something appear to be scarce, and that will increase its value. There are actually studies that show this. For example, if I have 12 purple sweaters to sell, and I put one on the counter and say last one, that's more likely to sell than if I have all 12 of them up there because it's scarce. You're more likely to pay for a painting because the painter's dead. It's sort of interesting, the artificial scarcities, like, when Prince died, Michael Jackson died, Elvis died, their record sales went up. Well, it wasn't like they were going to be able to not be able to print more records. It was something about the lost alternative. Lost alternatives increase in attraction. That is why when you threaten to break up with somebody in a relationship, somehow you may get what you want for a while, the first couple of times you try it, because you have become the lost alternative. We will see this in sales when somebody says, this is a limited time offer. You must respond in the next 30 minutes in order to get this deal. And what happens is, with scarcity, emotion takes over. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be left without that opportunity. I better buy this right now. And then what you find out the next day, it's still on sale, and they're telling you 30 minutes. And so anything that appears to be a scarce resource or is limited in time, is going to affect your judgment. Now, you on the other side of it know how to sell things or yourself by saying, this is, for me, I'm only going to make you this offer for this short period of time. Or there's lots of competition for this. I knew a guy that was selling his car and from his home. And what he did was, usually the people would call up and say, and the average person would say, we'll come at 10, and then you hope to tell the next person to come at 11, the next person to come at 12. And then you hope they don't run into each other because it would be awkward. That's not what this guy did. This guy had everybody come at the same time. Because the first person pulls up, while he's pulling up, the second person pulls up, realizes he may not get the car. Then the third one pulls up. And he always was able to sell the car for the price he was asking for by using this tactic. You're creating competition for a scarce resource. Colby, anything?
Yeah, what you call these, this is about subtleties. And so each one of these ideas really, if you go back and replay this podcast over and over, it gives you a way to think about how to subtly influence other people.
Right. And in addition, to realize what other people are doing to you.
Yeah.
Because people are trying to influence us, is one of our themes all the time. And now that you're better armed than they are by having this information from this book, you're going to be in a better position. So subtleties are important.
Why do you say that it's automatic response?
Well, because we don't think about it. We're responding all the time without really processing the information that, this guy, I owe this guy something, or he will owe me something, or, I think of all the times even I've been affected by something because I felt I had to make the decision right then, or I wouldn't be able to do it anymore.
If you master this material, can you control those responses?
Yeah, you can bring control on yourself. In my classes, I used to have people write small self-reports on how they had used and been used by each one of these click words, these automatic response tendencies. So you can catch yourself and realize what's going on. I've actually used this in buying a car, because I would tell the car dealer, and I think if you study car sales, you'll find this is the case. The car dealer knows that when you walk in to their car place, when you walk out again, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
So you want to make yourself the lost alternative. You're buying a house. You want to make yourself the lost alternative. Like, I have lots of houses to choose from, but you've only got this one to sell. And matter of fact, if I was a realtor, I'd put down all these things about all the other people that were coming to see that house, making you feel if you don't make that decision to buy that house right now.
Yeah.
I might even have my office call me while I'm talking to you, and you're trying to buy the house, and make you think that somebody else is coming to look at it right away.
Yeah.
It happened to me when I bought a car once. They came in and told me somebody else wanted to drive the car. And it was a rainy Friday afternoon, and I looked up at the two people that were in there, the salesman. I actually laughed at him. And I said, there's nobody here. Who wants to drive it? You? And then I told them what I did for a living, and they laughed and admitted that that was the case. So when you are aware of this art of persuasion, you can use these things, and you're more likely to be aware of when people are using it on you, and you can develop strategies for not being affected by it.
There we go.